Me.
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
Hey. Man, I just about finished already. It's not a Pabst, it's a soda. But just about finished it already. I didn't even start the show. I got one of these things. Right? Have we talked about these things in the past? You know, like people break them up so they don't end up in turtles or around birds or something. But the question is, what are those coastal states putting them in the ocean for anyway? Right? This is an Izod. Where's the thing? Let's see if you can see that. Where is the thing? Izod Lacoste. It's a preppy shirt. That's why I cut it up. I cut it up because I have my muscles. My muscles are too big for these shirts. I'm too sexy for my shirts. Remember that song? I'm too sexy for my shirt.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
You said it, baby.
This is Metropolitan Police speaking. Metropolitan Police speaking. All persons are warned to stay off the streets. All persons are warned to stay off the streets.
Scotty, you gotta get us out of here. You gotta get us out of here. You don't have one of these, do you? There's nobody up there. Because they're not going to be up there for another many centuries. They'll never be up there, actually. I love days like this. And the reason I played that, well, I mean, this should get the point across.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Let's get this show on the road.
All right, it's on the road already. This is open the mail time. This says affiliation confirmed. John's precinct resident. Extremely important for the future of the party. I get torn in half. Change date on video. The video in question, the one that didn't record well, I had the wrong date on it, so I changed that this morning. The title card today was very interesting. Also, yesterday, I was talking about tubes, and I didn't have one in the box. Here's if we look over here closely in the light, let's see if you can see. It's a Sylvania tube that's blown. You can tell by that black and silvery. See that? Sometimes they still kind of semi-lit up inside. It's like real old technology, though, if you think about it. Radio tubes, television tubes. So if this is Sylvania, this is most likely a television tube. So like YouTube calls themselves YouTube. And, you know, what does that have to do with the tube? I mean, and their logo is a picture tube, a cathode ray tube, like the rounded corner thing. Hey guys, I still have all my advertising agency stuff. Do you want me to come up with a new corporate identity for you? New brand, rebrand you and make your brand even stronger? Because the way you're going, it ain't cutting the mustard. I would have shot it down in one of my staff meetings. Gulp. It's 6:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the former United States. It's June 10th, 2021. This broadcast is going out to you people buried under 1,000 feet. I don't know what's going on over here. 1,000 feet of ice. Couple thousand feet of ice. Hoping to be rescued by those droids. You don't know what I'm talking about. Yesterday, the audio was a little bit messed up. I was talking away from the microphone. But I also had messed around with my compressor a little bit, I think. So, I don't know. You know. I don't know if I messed something up or not. I think I told you yesterday, I actually ordered a pedal, and not a flower pedal, a reverb pedal that I intend to hook up to the microphone. It should work. And it takes a 9-volt battery, and I already bought the batteries yesterday. I took the long walk from the front porch to your back seat, or something like that. Used to like that guy till he forgot who he was, right? The screen door slammed. Mary's dress waved. You know, he was singing for the downtrodden, and then he didn't realize that the people who were pretending they were singing, they were defending the downtrodden, were just a bunch of like ruling elitists, hypocrites. And I guess hopefully today is a good day and I'll be able to watch this one back. It's weird, you know, I believe the folks at YouTube did clean up the mess. I mean, the videos were looking really good. In fact, far superior. So, thank you, YouTube. YouTube. Right? YouTube. I got my EBT card yesterday. I also applied for to get my internet bill reduced. There's some program out there. I was approved by the program, but I haven't been approved by the ISP. I wonder if they're going to like dance around and try to screw me over on that. Who knows? See, one of the things about living below the poverty line is that, and being, you know, retired, so to speak. My chair is messed up. One of the benefits are the benefits. And, you know, to some people, they might say, well, look, this is the former United States. Western civilization has fallen. My forehead, for some reason, is, you know, glowing. Ah, white hat. I knew I shouldn't have worn this hat. I knew I should have worn this hat. But anyway, so today's show is, the title card read, Once upon a time, there was a guy on YouTube. And there's this almost comic book picture of me with the signature glasses, which I never wear during the daytime. But it's kind of an interesting image, you know. And I'm holding obviously a, you know, communicator. Symbol of pure geekdom. But let's look at what I wrote in the description and what the title of this show is. The title of the show is Fantastical Tales. Tony Caravan Live 6/10/21. Once you understand that you don't know what you don't know, and that mostly everything you know is wrong. It's not hard to comprehend what you will hear on Tony Caravan Live. And of course, this way to the beach, there are links to my Instagram account, which is mostly just the backyard flowers, my locals account, TonyCaravanLive.com, locals.com, and GreatSolarStuff.com, which you can get some of this stuff that's powering that on-air light. And of course, there's my books, TonyCaravanLive.com. You can see that there. And all that kind of jazz. Fantastical tales. Yesterday was like I started to tell some fantastical tales. But, as always, when I do those free flow of consciousness type of shows, it gets, I get sidetracked. And so, you don't stay on point. You deviate and then you come back to point. But I think by the end, I made a point. I got up today, I don't know, about a while ago, like 4 or something. I had breakfast, which was two sausage, egg, and cheese with a croissant that were frozen in my refrigerator, in an overpackaged giant box. I put some extra Velveeta cheese on them. Make them really super cheesy. And then put ketchup on them too. It's weird. And then a friend of mine is applying for a job with some thing. And so I had to give them a recommendation. And that took a little while to do. And then I got to this point. And then here we are right now. And now we have to go from here to somewhere. That's the question. So the question is, where do we go?
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
Did Rod Serling just like belch or something?
Really funny. Really funny. What do you mean I'm funny?
You're funny. You're just funny, man. You're just funny. Yeah, I'm not happy with this hat. I'm not happy with the forehead, I have the darkest tan of anyone in like this portion of the US right now, and my face looks like bright white. That makes no sense whatsoever. How is that even possible? How is it even possible? So I guess I'm going to have to do this. System preferences, if you have a Mac, universal access, display, white on black. You see? And apparently people who have for certain, visually challenged, as they say, that takes care of that. And in case I didn't say it. Good morning. There is no chat because I have chat turned off because I believe anything, I have no email program turned on. I have my iPhone, which is a half iPhone, turned off, like off, And there is nothing taking any bandwidth whatsoever, because even this computer over here is just a sound effects computer. It's not connected to the internet. So with that said, there is no reason why we should have any problems whatsoever with bandwidth pushing this up. And I could usually tell if there's a slowdown because you get to live feedback. So let's get on with the show. So, fantastical tales. Moving the microphone, making noise. It would have been nice if that reverb would have came. I haven't gotten a notice that it's shipped yet, though. So it's one of those things that this happens with like Amazon a lot. Like sometimes a thing doesn't come, it's like a 1 day or 2 day delivery type of item. And then it's like, hey, where is it? And then you look it up and it says delayed. And whenever it's delayed, then it just magically vanishes. And that's the end of it. And this happens to me far too many times. So it's like these people are trying to like, let's intercept that thing, see what he might be building. And so they've got all these behavioral people, spooks, right, in a room with a whiteboard, right? And they're figuring out, okay, what are the possibilities he could be constructing with this reverb? What would be the purpose he would need this device, right? I notice he's holding up like tubes and stuff. He must be like somehow sending a signal to somebody about something. This guy can't be true what he's doing. There must be something beyond that. I don't know what it is, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. Well, it's called a reverb pedal, and I'm trying to add a little bit of like, depth to the broadcast. I used to always like these radio stations, years and years ago, the oldie radio stations. I mentioned before, the Boss Jocks. And they had this sound, and there's like weird stuff going on in my headphones. They always had this full sound. It was kind of like reverbish type of thing. I had my voice going through this compressor or limiter, and I thought that was going to help improve the voice, but it didn't. I told you about that other experiment I tried the other day, and that didn't work. And I tried running it through an amp, which was just something I did on the side, and that didn't work. And there is this device. I saw this Fran from Fran Labs. She actually had one of those things, these giant boxes, literally would take up the whole background you see behind me, that, they used for like Riders on the Storm. And like, if I would have just done that, it would have sounded like Jim Morrison. She did it. You should check it out. Fran, it's Fran, Fran's Lab, Fran in the Lab, something like that. She like takes things apart, builds things and all this stuff. And she's got the biggest collection of like classic electronics and all that kind of stuff. It's unbelievable, man. I'd love to see her, her studio. I'd love to record a track in her, with that thing. But it's huge. It's huge. And this, and I think that now I don't know if that's one of the things, but like the secret of the sound, she was saying it was the thing that they all used. And I didn't comment because I watch YouTube on TV, and you can't comment on TV using the TV apps. And the thing about it is, it's disappointing. See, this is like where the tech heads aren't using the technology the way you would expect in the year 2021. And that's kind of like, what I'm getting at, holding up the, the communicator and stuff. In other words, I'm using Alexa is programmed into my Fire Stick. You know what that is, right? So I have a remote control, and I could push the button on the top and say, Alexa, what's the weather today? Or Alexa, play, Riders on the Storm, right? Father, right? Mother, I want to, right? This is the end. I know it doesn't sound like Morrison, but the thing is, the developers, if you can talk to the animals, right? Right. But if you could talk to the darn smart TV, right? Nobody put two and two together, right, on the app and decided, because people have Alexa, they have Apple, the Apple app, Apple TV, right? So they got Siri, and then they got that Microsoft, whatever the heck that thing's called, has some weird name. You know, everybody's got their talking assistant. Plus, the damn TVs are listening to you anyway. You know, they're always listening to you. But I mean, so why hasn't anyone put two and two together? They're sitting around drinking their Starbucks coffee that they bought right on the campus, right? Because it's Peter Pan culture and it's eternal college age stuff, you know. I mean, being a geek is one thing, you know. All right. That's one thing, you know. Yeah. Normal people don't have these things. My age. Okay. But being a geek is one thing. But using your geekdom, you know, is another. And sometimes I wonder, these people who have jobs at these companies, it's not like, speaking of jobs, it's not like Steve Jobs. I keep bringing this up. One more thing, you know, and now one more thing. It's like they're not, it's almost like they have the job. They're collecting the six-figure salaries, you know, the lower ones. The other ones are getting 7 and 8 figures because these are you know, they're all billion-dollar companies now. But they don't think about something like that. You know, why don't you have an interface so that I could leave a comment on YouTube using a smart TV by just saying, you know, tied in with Alexa, Siri, or like I say, whatever the Microsoft one is. I'll look it up. Hopefully it doesn't mess up something. New window. Let's see. Microsoft voice assistant. Cortana. Okay. So you got Siri, Alexa, and Cortana. And I'm sure there's something else out there, you know. So why can't they have comments tied into that? So I could have left a comment to Fran and said, hey, Fran, did you know, because this is what whole purpose of me doing this. And I know it's dark and stuff, but it's just I feel more comfortable. And besides, it's 6:30 in the morning. Okay. It's getting light outside barely, but it's an overcast day. This is what it looks like in the room, realistically. That other light before was unrealistic. But hey, Fran, you're right about Riders on the Storm. But at Capitol Records, if you've ever been out to Los Angeles, and one of the few things in what's called Hollywood, because most of Hollywood was nonsense when I lived out there. It was just like, that was like the low rent district. But you got the Capitol building. It's the round building, like it's built like round, like Records or something. And Capitol Records. And in the studio, the secret of like a lot of Frank Sinatra, strangers in the night, you know, strangers in the night, exchanging glances, lovers at first sight. Right? What were the chances? Right. Well, anyway, the sound on those records, The Secret was released years ago, not that many years ago, was that in the main studio, they actually had the floor below, they had a hole in the floor. And so that would give that fuller sound. That was like the Capitol Records recording studio secret. So I would like to have told. I mean, I could go back if I think about it, but after a 2-hour show, you can't keep track of everything. I could write a note, I guess, or whatever. But Fran, if you're watching, which you're not, it wasn't just that device. But let me tell you, that was the coolest thing you ever showed on your show, man. Man, I'd love to have that. I'd re-record all my songs. Though I'll tell you, I think I forgot, most of the music to most of my songs, At one time, I actually was going to go on tour about a year or so ago, 2 years ago, maybe. I was going to do a gig, just a short mini tour. I was going to put together a band of some classic musicians that I've known over the years. And the more I thought about it, but I would have had to send them my stuff and say, hey, learn it, because I would have just basically just been the vocalist, I mean, maybe I'd drape the guitar on me and try to get into some of my jams a little bit, like some of this. Let's see. Like this. I think this one. I think I remember that. And of course, stuff like this definitely needs a band. That's why I never really released this one, I don't think.
It's one thing to be a wage slave.
One thing to be a wage slave. This one, I definitely need a band to learn it. That took a lot of production to do that one. And then, well, that I would actually have a DJ on stage helping with that. And let's see what else we got here. I like, some of the songs I just forget how I did them. Because what we used to do is, I'm going to tell you some tales. Then we'll get into some fantastical tales. These aren't fantastical. These are regular tales. But fantastic to some, but not to me. When I got into the music, the songwriting mode, I would sit here, like right where you see me, scratch my neck like this. And I would pull up like text edit sometimes, or I'd have some notes scratched, an idea, It's like that thing that it's like The Last Temptation. You could see on here, if you look, you'll see scribbled, The Last Temptation of Tony Caravan, scribbled on a index card. That's what I use. That's my go-to thing, index cards. And then ultimately I just created this. But, I might just, that's all it was. And then I would just open up the text program and I would write this basic, what it would be is like a poem, in effect. Kind of song, poem. I mean, a song is a poem, basically, set to a beat. That's why I called it beat poetry, 21st century beat poetry. Now, again, just to stay with you, remember, I did do traditional, what you would consider beat poetry, like this. or this kind of thing. So it's not like so I have those kind of those beat poems. This was that song. This is the song that like nobody really knows about.
I originally wrote this song when I broke up with my college girlfriend. And after that, some time after, I would have these dreams and that we were still together, making love or whatever. And then I'd wake up and realize, well, it was just a dream.
But you hear that big sound in there, that reverby type of thing. So that's what I'm trying to reproduce on these things, broadcasts. That was the second to the last song I ever wrote. I think this was the last song I ever wrote. Let's see, 5/8/21 is when it was added to this. So that means nothing, actually. So anyway, that's beat poetry. So the process being that I would just write these lyrics, poems, and then I would just drape the guitar around me, open up a multi-track digital recording setup, all right? And I would come up with a rhythm, usually a rhythm track. And it just came to me. It was weird. I was in songwriting mode, right? It's like a switch was flipped on. And so I'd lay down this rhythm track and, usually a guitar rhythm track or sometimes a keyboard track, which, I have a keyboard here. You have a desk and some of those desks have a pull out thing. So people have a keyboard. They type real low. I don't know. I like to type higher. In fact, I got my keyboard angled high. I think it's ergonomically better that way. But I actually have it like a MIDI keyboard right now. You can't see it, right? But it's there. So sometimes I would do that. I would just come up with something on the keyboard. And, and depending on what it was, then I might do a lead, then some kind of guitar thing to, lead guitar, or guitar drifting along melodically with the rhythm and adding bass and drums, right? And so I'd create this track. And then once the track's created, like I would do it live. That's why I like doing these things. And it's Tony Caravan Live. My music is Tony Caravan Live is what I'm trying to tell you. And that's why it's not perfect. And these shows are far from perfect. But they still end up giving you something, a takeaway. Even though it's like, it just wends its way to get to that point, right? I mean, but this is how I like doing this. It's a flow of consciousness mostly. And it gets that to my thing of, like I say, consciousness. And that's the tales we're going to talk about, today. Fantastical tales. And so, and then I would just do the vocal track. And sometimes I would double the vocal track, so I'd give myself a kind of a backing vocal or just the vocal over a vocal. And maybe I'd add a second rhythm. But the thing, it was like 1, 2. So if it was 6 tracks, the whole song, say 6 or 7 tracks, they were just pretty much done live. one track after another. And then it would just be mixed down quick, converted to like MP3, and then I would post it, right? Register it with BMI so nobody could, so I had the rights to it, publishing rights, royalty rights. And then I would post it. And in the beginning, I was trying to get, I was a little more aggressive, and I did get some airplay out in station in LA and in New York once. And, I got a royalty check from BMI, a very small check. But, that's how I did it. And I wrote about 50 songs. I think I have about close to 50 songs registered on BMI. So I'm a bona fide songwriter. I'm not tooting my horn. And I've said it many times, about, a third of the tracks kind of semi suck, but 2/3 of them I think are really good tunes. You heard the beginnings of this thing. 2/3 of them are good. And they really deserved airplay and all that stuff. But, they're on YouTube Music, they're on iTunes, Spotify. But I found that it's all a big game. And the big record companies still control distribution and have influence. And you can work at it, but I mean, you're just one guy, and it's a matter of spending all kinds of time. That's why I like doing live videos now as opposed to my earlier produced shows. I produced some really good YouTube videos. I mean, really good ones. They had these intros with it was researched intros with these I wish, like I say, if this whole thing wasn't, if they would have taken this to the year the technology to the year 2021, instead of it being somewhere around the year 2003 or 2001, which is another thing I was thinking about when I was laying in bed last night. I was thinking how, when you think of the movies 2001 and 2010, it's like, well, that didn't happen, right? Or people who went to like Epcot Center, and Disney's of the future. Because Disney basically, the whole idea of Disneyland, not the ride part, but the Epcot Center, that kind of futuristic stuff. All he was doing was trying to create a World's Fair that would be there all year round. And my cat is like rubbing against my leg for some weird reason, even though he got his morning treats and stuff. It must have been a word I said that somehow set him off. But, none of that happened. And it's the same with the internet. It's like the technology just never happened. And I briefly said yesterday, it's like people were in a time loop. Of course, I don't believe in time. We're going to get into that fantastical tale. Consciousness and time. That's going to be today's thing. But somehow, all of a sudden, the iPhone came out and then everybody jumped on the bandwagon. When it happened. I mean, you had BlackBerry before that, and you had the Rio thing or whatever it was, because I bought it for a friend of mine, the first portable MP3 player. I always had technology like boom, because I had money coming in and I was working, and I always had enough extra money. And so whenever the new technology came out, I jumped on. I was like, what they call early adapters, right? Adapters. I don't know. Early adopters. But somehow, once the smartphone happened, right? And like I say, this didn't really hit mainstream, right? until about 10, 12 years ago. That's all it's been. It's hard to believe. Okay. But really. But see, you have people who are like 20s, right? 20 something or teens. And to them, they were children. So, this stuff came along and then it was just there, and they know no world without it. Right? And then all the old folks seem to be like enamored with it, mesmerized by the whole thing. And of course, this isn't like this just happened. This was like worked at. All right. And so, these things, they won't go away. Like, where's the next big thing? Right? That was a term people used to use. The next big thing. Or Steve Jobs. Oh, like the speech is over. He goes, but wait, now there's one more thing. And then that would be a mind blower, right? And that's how the iPhone came out, and that's how all these things happen, or these great innovations. One more thing. Tim Cook doesn't have any one more things. All they're doing is like adding 3D to emojis and improving, making FaceTime. So if you purchase more Apple services such as Apple TV and Apple Music, you can like share that experience with other people who buy the latest version of the iPhone, which is the only one that'll run the new operating system that does this. So it's elitism. They're elitist. And they're things that make the poor, which is a word people don't want to use anymore. People are ashamed to say they're poor, or like me, when I say I live below the poverty line. I'm not ashamed of that. You're either rich or poor, right? I can do that stuff, but you can't. I can do it because I'm on YouTube. That get old yet? And so that's the way it is. And, there used to be the middle class, working class / middle class. There used to be like, the totally impoverished poor, then the working class, which were really the wage slaves. There still are. There's still impoverished people, and there's still wage slaves. Then there was the middle class, who were they were working class, even though they were called middle class, and then they would say upper middle class, but they were still workers, but they had cushy jobs, right? And a better lifestyle and a higher salary. And then there was what they referred to as the rich, rich and famous. I mean, these are the colloquial words, but now it's like, it's like you're rich and poor, right? I mean, maybe there's the wage slave, working class wage slave, but it's like you're rich or poor. Because if you're one of those, if you're a Washington bureaucrat, say, or you have some job, you're an school administrator, or you have a job working in even local government. These people are making anywhere from $60 to $80 to $100,000, say, somewhere in those ranges, because they're saying the median income in the U.S. is like 50. First of all, they're way behind on statistics, which is a question is, what are these bureaucrats? They're as bad as the technocrats. What are the bureaucrats doing? Why every time I look up a statistic, it says 2018, 2019. 2018 was 3 years ago, man. Why don't you? And we're 6 months into 2021. When I was in business, man, we were right on stuff. I put my staff right on it. Hey, I need that information now. I got a meeting at 2:00 this afternoon. I need those statistics and numbers in my hand before I leave the office or before that, client comes into the conference room. And they would do it. And fantastical numbers. Speaking of the word fantastical. But it's like, what were we even talking about? We were looking for. I get caught up in all this stuff. These people that don't give us numbers, statistics. I see chat doesn't work, so even if somebody could chat me they can't. What was I freaking talking about? I don't know. So, and my ice is melting like it's all melted already. That's like the fastest the ice has ever melted. So the radiation must be really up. Electromagnetic radiation in the room. But anyway, I know what I was talking about is people don't have the technology and the bureaucrats. They're not doing their work. I know what it was. Median. Okay. New window. What is the median income in the U.S.? All right. What is the average income in the U.S. in 2020? All right. Summary of key findings. The average U.S. household income is $87,864. The median is $61,937. All right. Income. Asian households have the highest median income. 87,243 among all our races. February 18th, 2020. Okay. Now that was before the thing hit. But there's no 2021 or late, 20, right? 87,000. The average U.S. household income is 87,000. Well, that's two people. And the median income is 61. All right. So they're saying that, you got, so, and you do have in the average household, you do have like two people, but kind of, not really anymore though, because people aren't really getting married, And, when you have all these like kids, hanging out together, living like that show, that geek show, whatever it was called, where all these geeks were trying to get a startup together and stuff. I mean, they're not filing like as if they're all in a household. They're just roomies. So that's like individual filings. And that's a lot of that going on, especially in the bigger cities because the rents are so high. People have roommates, right? So, that it's not like before where you had, people were either married or living together and joint filing and stuff like that. Because that's what these records come from. It's from basically taxes, IRS stuff. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Just to give you perspective, I'm not going to give you exactly my income, but what is the poverty level in the United States? Say one person poverty guideline, $12,880. Okay, so yeah, I live below the poverty line. Take a guess. It's great. It's great. So basically what they're saying is you're making less than $1,000 a month. So these other, and the thing is, and I've said this before, I have a 2-bedroom, could be a 3-bedroom house if I wanted it to be, but it's a 2-bedroom house with 1.5 baths, a yard, and a detached garage. Okay. And a big backyard garden. And I produce so much food in my garden and everything I have that I easily could support another person. Like, because that's the problem when you live alone, because it's waste. You cook a meal. I mean, that's why you gain weight. I've gained weight living alone, because you don't want to throw away food. There's starving people in India and Africa, after all, right? That's what I was always told. And it's true. But, it's mac and cheese. It's, it's some stew you made, or you cooked up a chili or something. You put it in the refrigerator. You could put leftovers in the refrigerator, but, you end up, you buy fresh food and you open up the refrigerator someday and you look and you go, man, I got blueberries in there. They're about ready to go bad. I got this, this leftovers that I've had in there. Oh, it's been in there for 3 days. I've got some vegetables. I've got this, that, the other. Sometimes I've looked in the refrigerator and I'm going like, man, I got all this stuff is about to go bad. I got to eat it, or throw it away. It's not exactly like there's like some place where somebody wants your, it's like, it's one thing to donate canned goods and food or something to a soup kitchen or someplace like that, which I don't know where they even are. But it's like nobody's going to take your like a half opened, thing of blueberries or something, or a pot half filled with some chili, right? Cold chili or something. You know what I mean? So what happens is you end up eating more. So I find that I could easily feed 2 people, below the poverty line. I mean, and well, I'm kind of a gourmet cook. Over the years, I've just learned to cook good food. People always say my food tastes good. And I think it's great too. I like it. I use seasonings, but just the right amount, and I grow fresh stuff in the backyard. Okay, make a long story short. So, what are these people doing with all that money? $87,000. And these are averages and medians. So that means that, like, there's a lot of people making well over 100K, and there's a lot of millionaires in this country, right? And so they're just spending it on taxes because they want to live in these cookie cutter neighborhoods, communities, or developments that's got aluminum sided houses with big lawns that look like golf courses or something. I don't know. So, that's confusing to me. So I was talking about the poverty line and like the breakdown of people. So that's why there's so much anger, frustration, and all this acting out on the streets, unhappiness and stuff. And then people get themselves into trouble with like credit cards and things like that. Because they see this, they see these people on TV and movies and everywhere. Commercials, really. And everyone's living this lifestyle, this lavish lifestyle. But the thing is, it doesn't, like I try to tell people, going forward, we're dealing with hyperinflation right now. I mean, the price of 2x4s is out of control. I mean, I can't even there's minor repairs I can't even do because the cost of wood is so high and scarce. And so and it goes across the board. Everything, the price has gone up. But I manage because I'm not so much frugal in a sense of that I have patience. I plan and I try to do things. And it's like getting this pedal for reverb. It may or may not work. But I got it. It's not expensive. It wasn't an expensive one. But I tried 3 different ways that cost me nothing using my own stuff before I resorted to finally breaking down and saying, okay, I'm going to buy this thing. And that's a problem in this country that's not being developed, of the former U.S. And that's how we got here, for you people who are buried under ice, right? In the year 2030, or no, 2050. 2046 by 2046, we will have experienced the Nova, the 12,000 year event. And, get us into the fantastical tale. And, that's pretty much what a lot of serious people who look into this believe right now. The sun is going to Nova. There's one school of thought, or theorems that have it being a micronova. The other ones are calling it a full-blown nova. Not a supernova or anything like there's degrees of novas of stars. This is just a nova where the star remains. Okay? The micronova, the star remains. It's basically shooting. It's like the lowest thing is like a CME, coronal mass ejection, those kind of things. There's like this scale. But it's basically it's shooting out. And the nova thing is like the outer shell almost, of the star just shoots out, and it's all over. So forget about people going to Mars or something like that. It's going to affect the whole solar system. And the reason people know this is happening is because, and I've talked about this before, is because we're already seeing the signs of it that have happened 12,000 years ago. Changes in the magnetic field of the Earth, weakening in the magnetic field. And we're seeing it on other planets as well. And we're seeing it on the sun. And so, that's that. We got that thing happening, right? So 25 years. It's like Bowie's song, 5 years. That's all we got. We got 5 years. My brain hurts a lot, right? Well, we got 25 years. My brain hurts a lot. Nobody's even talking about that. When I say nobody, I mean media, right? But the government has been spending trillions and trillions of dollars building shelters and doing all this stuff. And the Davos elite and those type of people, remember they created that Svalbard seed sanctuary where they took all these seeds and they have them buried? So the so-called ruling elite, they're all in on this, which is weird. And so you'd think, in a time like that, with 25 years to go, we wouldn't be worried about CO2, green planet. I mean, the planet's basically going to become, because what happens is, this is a catastrophe that is unimaginable to people. If you ever saw that movie The Day After Tomorrow or something, it's like it's beyond that. That thing was like that's fiction compared to, reality. What the changes, the earth changes that are going to result from this, and the utter unbelievable destruction. And we may or may not, we're alive today because we're the survivors of the last time this occurred. It occurs every 12,000 years. And because 12,000 years ago, people survived in caves and different things. Watch my show where I talk about it. So I don't want to get into that. What I wanted to really talk about today is I wanted to stick on the concept of consciousness, right? And time travel and, even astral projection and all of those things. A lot of people think about time travel. Like this is just something you've never thought about. If you're not interested in this kind of thing, obviously I don't know why you'd be watching this. But time travel is not, first of all, time travel is totally possible. All right. But it's not what you think. People have this idea of some time tunnel or some machine, some device, because this is a technocracy kind of thing. I mean, it's a corporatocracy, but some people call it a technocracy. And I don't have a problem with people who call it a technocracy because it's the same thing, because the corporatocracies run mainly by tech. All right. We've decided under this civilization that we were going to go the route of machines, right? Previous civilizations have been as advanced or more advanced than we have had longer lifespans because of it. And they simply didn't go the route of the machine. You see? They used other means, to achieve their ends, their goals, and to rise to a higher civilization. I've talked before about the times, the happiest you've ever been. I mean, life is an experience, right? That's what this is. And so, and everyone wants to be happy, right? I don't think you could find a sane person out there who says, well, I don't want to be happy, right? No, everybody wants to be happy. And even if they don't admit it, they've got some, that's some kind of mental problem, right? Of course you want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. If you say, I don't care about being happy, well, then you're in some kind of weird denial. You got some kind of mental problem. So how do you achieve happiness in a civilization? Because that's the ultimate goal. That was the ultimate goal of the United States, the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, life. Well, yeah, we want life, be alive. Liberty, the freedom to do what we want to do, right? But then they put in the pursuit of happiness. Don't get in the way of my happiness. And that's the Bill of Rights. And the Constitution giveth, and the terms of service taketh away. I should type that down in my thing because I just made that up, but it's true. So let's put that in there just so it's on record. The U.S. Constitution giveth, and the terms of service taketh away. Put that in quotation marks and Tony Caravan next to it, since that's my official quote. You know, I have so many quotes, and I'm not even appearing on any of those like quote pages. That was the other thing I was going to finish when I was talking about writing 50 songs, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I did write 9 friggin' books, you know, working on my 10th, and 50 songs, published 1,000 issues of magazines, 1,000, and then had all those ridiculous jobs I've talked about and been all over the place. And nobody acknowledges that I exist, right? Because I live below the poverty line. You see, I don't play the game. Homie, don't play that, right? And so because I've decided, I just like put away, you know, the childish things, right? I'm not driving back into my hometown in some convertible sports car, right? You know, and showing off. So otherwise, I'm a nobody in the minds of people. Yeah. And I belch on air. Remember, I can do that because I'm on air, but you can't. But see, that's the thing. Society has been conditioned, programmed. They've programmed your brain, your subconscious, to want and to worship the cult of personality and to want to be, you know, this thing, right? Must have the bright and shiny objects, must have the aluminum sided, you know, house with the big lawn, right? And the $3,000 washer and dryer set, refrigerator that filters your water, gives you ice cubes, and who knows, maybe even gives you hot water for tea. Who knows what they do? I know they have ones you could like wave your hand over and see what's inside, and then it has an app, and you could be at the grocery store and your refrigerator's telling you, you know, a list of things that are running low. Smart refrigerator. What a waste of technology. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Other civilizations didn't do that. You know, I don't need tech to tell me things that I could find out faster or already know. Right? Technology is a tool. I love it. You know, I use it. Is like there's a sound here is just distorted. It's not right. Like, what the is going on? What is going on? What the heck is going on? I got no light in this stinking place. This is annoying. Take my
Sunday, partly sunny with a 50% chance of showers.
Let's go to shower and see if I can figure out what the. All right, this is my. What are we got? Pardon me, folks. It's actually dusty on this thing. I can't even see what's what. Lows, FX. What's this? Mid-range. Is that highs or is that lows? Elk, EQ. EQ low. Is that right? Is that lows? This is FX, or what is that? No, that's balance. That's FX. I turned up. Fuck that. Lows. Mid-range. Turn those two back. Turn that up. Okay. I don't know what that looked like. I have no idea what that looked like. Do I have hair in the back of my head still? So anyway, I don't know if what I did was anything good or not. Riders on the Storm. So that's why people are messed up. Because they're caught up in that trap. And yeah, this is just still distorting. So I don't know what to do about that. If I turn this down, I could get rid of all kinds of sound. It's a limiter. And now it's like totally clear in my voice, in my head. If I turn it too much, then it won't even pick up my voice. I'll tell you all this technology equipment. This stuff should be built into these things. That's what I'm trying to get at. So you have previous generations. Sorry for wasting time on all this stuff. But it's all part of the whole thing. That we're not focusing on quality of life, the pursuit of happiness, right? Life, liberty, freedom, liberty, the freedom to do what you want to do and to be happy. And that's all people want. And there's no price tag on that. And there's no technology that necessarily does it because it just further complicates things. Like if I want it, I have my iPhone off, so I'm not going to like hook it up and show you. But I mean, if you'd actually see this sea of insanity that I've set up here to improve this sound, and it's just not working because once it gets processed through here, it just becomes its own thing. I don't know. So back to time travel and consciousness. This is what I want to talk to. We have time to talk about this, and this is the fantastical tale. And we got that great line out of this show, the Tony Caravan quote. The Constitution giveth, and terms of service taketh away. You know, and if you work for a company like that, you know that's true, right? You know that's true. And if you're unhappy or you've got a problem with something, you know deep down inside, you just want to be happy. And that these certain things they're doing, like I was watching, like issues and regulations and things like that. I got to move this microphone a little. I don't know why this thing is so whacked out. They don't make you happy. And they don't help the people that they're not intended, but that they're targeted to help by the media. In other words, the public relations people say they're going to help so and so. All they do is they help the media get people, media to sell cars. So people watch and they watch commercials and they sell cars and pharmaceuticals and all that jazz. And they help the politicians and the ruling elite, right, get their way, right? The cult of personality gets improved. Politics of pop culture and stuff perpetuates that. The corporatocracy wins, the technocracy wins, and ultimately the organized crime syndicate that runs the planet wins. And like in Boris and Natasha, who gets killed? Me, right? The person on the bottom end, right? because it doesn't really help, right? Because it's not thought out by people who have. It's what I was trying to explain about technology, is that the people in charge of the technology aren't using the technology. They're making so much money that they're just going out to dinner and parties and lunch, or they're at home in their lavish, lush apartments or houses, you know, maybe doing these, like the new Apple thing, doing these FaceTime, movie nights where they have all their friends on their 62-inch TV, right? And their faces are there while they're all watching, the latest Apple production, right? Through Apple TV app, or listening to Apple Music, right? While they're having their wine and expensive wine, or, whatever, or kale juice. They're not, they're living life. They're not using the technology. That's like, they're not in the trenches, which is like the same with the wars. It's like these people don't understand what it's like to be a soldier and to be, being shot at, or being worried about, being blown up, or constantly under this, threat. Instead, the news just says, oh, they're either going to pull the troops out of Afghanistan or not, or they're set to delay to do this, or we're going to send some troops to Syria. It's like, no, do you understand you're putting human beings in harm's way? And those human beings are over there believing they're protecting, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then they come home broken, if they come home. And obviously, for those that don't make it home, life is, well, that didn't happen. Liberty, they know they're not free, because the Constitution giveth and the terms of services have already taken it away. And pursuit of happiness, so it's like, you don't get involved in a thing, be it a technology thing like this, or, my other phone, I'm not going to hold that up, but I'll hold the old one up, or a thing like this, or whatever it is. If you're not using it, if the technology is not a thing, part of your life, it's not that it's your job. That's not what it's about. It's like, you don't like, just because you make good tips at a restaurant, right? Some upscale place, right? Somebody, like I used to know girls who tended bar made $600 a week in tips and stuff. This is years ago. So it was like $2,500 a month, 30 grand a year, just to tend bar for a few hours a night, having fun. Now there's people in the cities that probably make like 60 grand or something. I don't know. And because these weren't in big cities. But the point is, they cared about, those were people that they cared about. It wasn't just the job and the money. They made sure that their customers, the clientele, were happy. Right? So it's the same with the restaurant. And, in other words, you have to, it's not the job. It's not sitting around in a room and saying, hey, yeah, and we could do this, and that'd be cool, and that'd be neat. No, it's the idea of someone saying, well, wait a second, man, I do a live show every morning, and what I've found is that I've got, we need a button on the side that should, could put picture in picture, and so we could pull up a file. And we need to add that. We need to add that like today. Here's the code. It's a simple thing to do because we're already doing it on other things. Or we need a something there, a limiter, or or maybe we could add a little reverb, give them an option for that. Or we should have a thing that allows them to have filters on there. Because we know we have that technology already and we use it in other apps. So they should be able to like filter themselves. So this show could be in black and white, right? Or I could have, or effects or sepia or something like that. But see, they're not using the thing. So that never even dawns on them. Because they're just there and they're just like drinking their Starbucks and texting back to people. And on the weekends, they're out. They got money. They're out doing things, lockdown or not. And that's what's going on in this society that we live in. The people, and that's how things have changed. See, in the days when, in the days of wine and roses, I was thinking about that song for some reason this morning. Because I passed a rose bush the other day yesterday when I was walking to the grocery store. The days of wine and roses. Whenever I created anything, a website, an advertisement, a logo, ran a radio station, produced things, I always had in mind the end user. That's a word people don't use anymore. End user, right? Some people would say customer, clientele, like I did before, but the end user. Is this device user friendly? Is the end user going to be satisfied? Right? See, now they have algorithms. They don't have a lot of focus groups type of thing. In fact, there probably haven't been focus groups in well over a year and a half because of the thing, and the lockdown and stuff. Right? And, the problem with techno talk, all right, and then another thing people aren't really into, and I want to get into this time travel consciousness thing, and I will before this is over. But one of the problems with technology and video conferencing, because that's what all this stuff is, FaceTime, Zoom, Duo, right? All of these things. All right, it's teleconferencing. And they're slightly aware of this. They're trying to make improvements to it. That's what the whole Apple WWDC fiasco was all about. But it's all integrated to sell their products, their product line, in fact. Because what they left out of when they're presenting these things and saying how, this is going to be so super cool, they're just dropping the word Apple Music, Apple TV, right? Obviously on the Apple iPhone, right? So it's not like you're going to be able to share your Apple Music collection with somebody who else isn't a subscriber to Apple Music, right? It's the same way I can't play music here without getting a copyright strike. That's the name of the game, right? Remember, this is a corporatocracy. These companies they have stockholders, all right? They're in business to make a profit. A corporation exists for the sole purpose of giving its shareholders profit. They're in business to make money. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what it is. That's what they are. And to pretend otherwise, it doesn't matter if they give, donate to this or say they're going to have diversity or whatever, what the things they say. But in reality, that's not their primary purpose. That's not the goal of that company. The goal of the company is to make a profit, right? However they can. And so, that's what's lacking. So I'm saying that civilizations in the past have not necessarily relied on the technology, but they weren't primitive. And people are going like, I don't get, yeah, but without the iPhone is so cool, or like the, this my Android phone and the computer. And it's like, no, you don't get it. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But pretty much happiness is what human nature's all about. People want to be free, all right? They don't want to be enslaved. And they want to be happy. These are the basic foundations, Some people call it natural law, but I don't even like the word law, Just, it's nature. It's human nature. Okay? It's human nature to want to be free and happy, right? It's human nature. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, it was the coolest thing in the world. And these people that want to like revise history and stuff and make the founders out to be some kind of thing. I mean, to actually put that write those words down, alone was monumental accomplishment in history. The idea that those words exist. And who cares if there was hypocrisy here and there? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And that, there might have been some hypocrisy involved in that. So what? They wrote the words down, and we can follow those words and we can interpret them as such. And we have subsequently interpreted it as such that all people are created equal and they have the right to life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. So you could go back thousands and thousands of years, 6,000 years, 12,000 years, 36,000 years, 72,000 years. All right. There's people out there think, what are you talking about? 72,000 years. People weren't there. They were just that was a stone age. Those people weren't even they didn't even have farming or anything. How do you know? You don't know what you don't know. And I'll tell you, quite frankly, if you went through the school system any time in the last 30 some years, everything you know is wrong. Basically. So you have to imagine a high civilization that basically put their focus on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we're truly happy. And people were happy. So what does that society look like? What are the things that make you happy? Right? Well, we know from looking at archaeology, even just going back to the Romans and Greeks, all right, a couple thousand years ago, and I've touched on this at least before, that despite the way people kind of project, their prejudices on what those societies were like, fact of the matter was, outside of the Hollywood versions and the wars that have been, and the dates that they make you memorize or used to make you memorize in school, which I never was able to memorize because I just thought it was stupid. I just wanted to know the story, how people lived, what they did. The fact was, in between those wars and conquest, and it's like anything else, even in the U.S., in between certain periods of time of maybe injustice, right, and all of that sort of thing, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's reality. That's human nature. Look, there's 20,000 people, 20,000 homicides a year in the U.S. right now, give or take. 20,000 homicides in the U.S., give or take. Talk about this all the time. And that's those people who are homicide, killed, die, murdered, are from every race, creed, color, and religion across the board. There's 20,000 of them. Okay? And you focus on one or a handful of people and you say, oh, well, this is injustice. They're all injustices. No one, okay, deserves to be killed. No society that allows 20,000 people and accepts that there's 20,000 homicides a year and says, oh, well, that's just a statistic we have to live with. But we need to look at this particular person who was treated unfairly. That's 1 out of 20,000. You see? And that's how you know. That's the tell. Okay? That's the tell of the corporatocracy and the corporate media and these pseudo organizations, right? That collect money and then they buy $1 million homes. Right? That's their tell. Right? Because they never say there's 20,000 people. There's like 1 or 2 or 5. Even if they said there was 1,000, that's nothing compared to 20,000, the real number. Okay. So you can look back at some Roman civilization. So imagine somebody living in, Pompeii before the, they got covered with ash. Burnt, covered with ash. Like these multi-story buildings with windows, running water, bathrooms, shops, nice clothes, drapes, plenty of food, right? People making love, falling in love, having fun, drinking wine, social events, religious people, every kind of people, like that song. It takes every kind of people. That's what life's all about. Robert Palmer, he died. Well, so, but they didn't have an iPhone. They couldn't text anybody. Why would they have wanted to? What a happy people. Why would you have to text somebody? See, that's the whole thing. There have civilizations existed that weren't technological civilizations. That's not to say that there's anything wrong with tech. Like I said, how did I open up the show? What's my card look like? I'm a geek. I'm using technology. I'm broadcasting, webcasting, streaming, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's technology. I love it. It's my original Apple computer behind me. All right. Look at all this great solar stuff. Right. No, I'm all for it. I don't like, they're tools. I wish they'd work better. Like I said, I wish the people behind these companies and the people who worked on these projects would actually use it. Because if they use these on a daily basis or use them even once a month, they would see, oh yeah, we need to add filters. We need to add a picture-in-picture, and we need to add that. That's missing. Let's do that today. We could do that. That's simple code. All you got to do is put a button there and have the code, open up, open up file, right? Select file. I mean, simple as that. It's existing technology. Now there are third parties that do different things, but you got to, jump through hoops, pay all kinds of money or whatever. So why would they not? Why let these third parties get make a buck on it and do it half-assed when you could do it simplistic and streamlined? And I see all this room in this thing. There's room for you could put about 8 more buttons down there. Picture in picture. Be able to pull up a file or show your screen. filters. Pull up a thing like you have on anything nowadays that allows you to make the picture black and white, sepia, or maybe some kind of an effect. They had an extension on it. In fact, it was showing on my one thing, but somehow it vanished. But it was like they called it a toy camera or something weird like that. Some weird plugin I once had on Chrome. Okay, enough of that. I only have enough time to finish this, thing. But it doesn't lessen what I just told you, because that's very important stuff. And it all ties together. Because it's about consciousness. It's about who you are. The real you is conscious. It's not this thing, like I said yesterday, if you watch that. It's not this Android. Okay? Call it what you will, but you're a freaking Android. And most people walking around are glorified zombies because they're programmed. Their bioelectric brain, which is not their consciousness, okay, is basically programmed through indoctrination, conditioning, propaganda. It's downright programmed. But at the same time, it has the potential to function far better than any computer that we know of. And all you have to do is look at, like I say, savants, people with total recall, photographic memories, people who've come along like Da Vinci and Einstein and people like that. We know the capability of the human brain is like outrageous, right? And it has that extra thing where we have creativity. So it's another thing AI doesn't have. And we have the ability to put all that stuff together, whereas AI just draws on it. When I studied AI, and I have some conversations in this small book of mine, Codex, AI would surprise you and be able to come out with a big statement, on particle physics or something weird like that. And you'd say, wow, that's wild. But it was just pulling that data off of the internet, or Wikipedia or something, it's not correlating, collating. You see, it's not creatively combining things. And then it's not remembering it. It's just seeking, right? And then, and then distributing it. All right. And even if it has memory, which they don't, but they have ways of where some of these AI bots will keep like a diary almost, like logs of what was, accessed, what was discussed. It doesn't put it together the way the human brain does. So the human brain is way beyond any AI. And when they say, well, AI that has beat the best Go player around. Well, yeah, but that's not to say so much that another human could have toppled that Go player. It's like a chess champion or something, or a Go player, right? You don't always stay at the top. It's like a game show almost. Well, the IBM bet the best player on the thing. Yeah, okay. That IBM computer or whatever, Microsoft, I forget what it was, IBM or a Microsoft computer, played one of those TV game show things and bet they're all their best player or something. But no one asked the simple question or forwarded the simple one and said, well, haven't these shows been on for decades and decades? And haven't winners and the best of the best always been beaten by somebody along the way? I mean, it was inevitable that this guy who was the best Go player, allegedly, would have eventually be beaten by another guy, human, right? It's the same with chess players. You know, there's a chess champion for so long. It's like, you know, I mean, you could take it in the field of sports too. It's inevitable that somebody who holds a record, you know, that seemingly was like a mind-blowing record, was eventually beaten in an Olympic game, or, you know, or like in a World Series, you know, whatever. And so that's the question. That, see, the technocrats, they don't, and the media, they see there's never a comeback. It's like when they have guests on, they don't like have a comeback question when someone says something, right? And that's propaganda. That's lies by omission. That's just messing with people's brains, and why people are just so clueless about stuff. The fact of the matter still is, the happiest you've ever been has been without technology. And if you say that's not true, well, then I pity you, poor you, that you've never basically been happy, truly happy. You've never encountered another human being, shared your body, soul, and mind with another person, or you've never been and experienced the awe and beauty of nature, right? That you've never, like, you have five senses and you've never experienced, you know, the exaltation, right, of the best that your senses can produce. All right. I feel sorry for you if that's your answer, because the fact of the matter is, the happiest anyone has ever been has not been with any machine or technology. All right. That's just plain and simple. Well, I found my girlfriend on a dating site. Yeah. So what? You could have found your girlfriend at a dog park, or in a bar, right? Or at work, right? You know, or at a friend's wedding. That's happenstance. Fact of the matter is, that wasn't the happiest moment. That's a memory. That's a meeting. All right. The happiest moment, hopefully for you, would be the first time you kissed her under the moonlight, or sat and talked for hours and hours on a bench in a park, or overlooking the ocean, or, you know, some beautiful lake, or scenic view, or we're in bed and made love, and stayed in bed all Sunday, right? No technology, right? You fools. People just don't get it. And that's the thing. So there was higher civilizations. So you could go back, whether it's Rome, Greece, or whether you go back to Samaria, you know, where they invented beer, you know, 6,000 years ago, you know, found the recipes for beer. So, you know, I'm hanging out in Samaria, drinking beer with some friends, having a good time. And my girlfriend comes by and we go for a walk out, you know, along the riverside, sit there, and it's a full moon. It's low in the sky. It's like orangey. We're watching the ocean reflect over the river, or the moon reflect over the river. Embrace, kiss, make love. That's happiness. That's humans experiencing, you know, the fullness of their senses, and, you know, and each other. And you know, the guy's back drinking beer by the fire, you know, in, you know, 6,000 years ago, which isn't a primitive place because they had buildings and stuff, hanging out in the courtyard somewhere, doing this, that, the other. They were laughing, you know, passing jokes among each other, talking about stuff, pondering things, looking up at the stars. You know, it was fun. I'll see you later, you know, so and so. I'm going back, you know, whatever. Talk to you later. Happiness. See? Happiness. The idea of an advanced civilization with buildings, houses, clothing, things, community, and people, freedom, liberty, and love, happiness, right? Okay. Now, in the last portion here, there's no machine for time travel because time doesn't exist in a linear fashion. Remember, I was trying to explain yesterday this idea of this disk. All right. Just don't ask me why. That's just the way it is. You know, I don't know why I know these things. These things it has to do with, you know, the aliens or something. I don't know. You have consciousness. Your consciousness is detached and a part of you. Well, consciousness is timeless. Okay. And consciousness exists, you know, on simultaneously everywhere and is a part of everything that there is, which some people refer to as the one or God or whatever. And some people call consciousness the soul. Some people call consciousness your spirit. It doesn't really matter. All right. That's up to you. This isn't a religious discussion. If you believe in the soul, that's fine. If you believe in some mystical, spiritual idea, you know, chakras and some kind of spirit and all kinds of things like that, that's fine. If you believe in consciousness as this thing, like most even scientists that don't believe in religions or spirituality or metaphysics or any of that stuff, but they believe in consciousness and they study the hard problem of consciousness, the duality. They accept that. That's, you know, I've talked about that before. That's modern science today, right now. It's a serious discussions going on by academics all over the world. So you have this consciousness that whether you like it or not is metaphysical. Okay. That's why it's the hard problem of consciousness, because they can't figure out, you know, the brain, how consciousness, how you are you and not just a droid. Now, what I say is that there's a lot of droids around there, just programmed human bioelectric brains, you know, walking around. And that's who these people are. And that's why you can't, you know, when they hear me talk, they're like lost. I don't know what this guy's crazy. You're crazy. That's why I get one viewer. All right. But, you know, I base everything I talk about on like on serious science and serious studies and archaeology and anthropology, you know, and research and the most current discussions by some of the smartest minds on the planet. Not just making this crap up. Right? And the books and this, you know, and all the texts that have been passed down throughout history over the millennia. So if you want to travel through time, it's just a matter of having your consciousness move to any particular moment on this plane of existence. It's not so much the past. It's not time in the way you're thinking. Okay? You know? And you have to understand the idea that even if you're a conscious being, and not everyone is conscious, not everyone has consciousness. It says, and the religious aren't going to like this. Not everyone has a soul either. People they think everybody has a soul, and the spiritual people, like everybody has a spirit. We're all part of one. No, only those who have consciousness or have a spirit or have a soul, whatever you want to call it. The rest are just droids. Okay? They're just meat suits. They're just biological units with bioelectric brains programmed, all right, by people that would want to do us harm and control and manipulate us, all right? The organized crime syndicate that rules over 8 billion people on the planet. We're up to some serious stuff right now, and it's pretty scary. And I don't know what exactly it is, but it's not going to, like I say, it's not going to bode well for us. So time travel is just an exercise. You are an immortal being if you are conscious already. All right, so don't worry about that. And if you want to, your consciousness from each moment in your life, so to speak, okay? Your consciousness from each moment in your life is all the same, part of the same consciousness, just as that consciousness is all part of the one conscious, greater consciousness, all right, that connects everyone who has a consciousness, or who is conscious, I should say. And so the idea is, and it's not an easy task to do by any means, but the idea is if you want to go into another moment, what you would call a different time within your existence, so to speak, it's just a matter of being conscious, right, of that moment and being present in that moment, consciously present in that moment. And that moment can be a moment, what you would refer to as the past, or it could be a moment that you might consider the future. And that's how people see things, and predict things. Because their consciousness, which ties into their bioelectric brain, all right, because we're using this avatar at this time and these senses for this experience of human life at the moment, all right? And it's a moment. And it's all a moment, It's the same moment. It's one big moment. Right. And so it's timeless. And that's the way it is. So there's no fear of death, of dying, These biological units will fall apart. They do fall apart. And because of our lack of being conscious, of our consciousness and focusing on that, we've allowed these nefarious players, right, who are basically brainwashing people, programming people, messing with people's biological brains, to keep these eternal secrets from us. And that's why there are what they call secret societies. Some people call them that because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of ancient knowledge. There's nothing to be afraid of. The real conspiracy theory are the people who are afraid of what they call secret societies. Those are the conspiracy theorists because they think it's a conspiracy, but it's not. To study the ancient ways and consciousness is not anything negative. It is the ultimate study, right? And you could ask anyone, particularly, if you study Eastern philosophy, where they've already gone through a lot of this stuff. And this stuff is written down in text. So time travel is totally possible, but it doesn't require a machine. And it's not really time travel. It's just jumping from one moment to another, or being cognizant, in a sense, conscious of that. You can live and relive things. You could do whatever you want to. And the dream process, is a gateway to that. That's why dreams are so confusing to people. And some people say, well, I don't dream at all. And they're right. If you're not a conscious being, you don't dream. Consciousness is being in touch with everything. It's not like people say, oh, it's a filing of the day's activities. Yeah, it's the filing of a day's activities, right? Your experiences, like your consciousness experiences life through your five senses. Your existence, your connection to this biological unit is an experiential, thing. That's what it is. That's why you're here. That's why you're doing what you're doing. All right. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Right. You would just be one of the droids. Right. And that's why I even say some animals are conscious too. But most aren't. But there's a lot of humans right now on this planet that are just simply not conscious beings. They, you could call them subconscious, but they're programmed bioelectric brains, with these bodies. And of course they have, these bodies have senses and they go through, but that's why they just can't relate to what I'm trying to tell you and why why my stuff is so unpopular. Because people don't want to take that leap. They don't want to ponder these things. They don't want to really be, it's like they're afraid to be happy. Right? And somehow they've taken this thing and put this like Black Mirror, witchcraft, the glamour in front of everybody. And got everybody all caught in this. The best way to describe it in their terms, but not my terms, is a time loop. In other words, people are doing nothing. They're just repeating the same stuff. We're not going anywhere. It's the year 2021. I keep trying to say that to people. If you're over a certain age, let that sink in. It's the year 2021. All right? We've done nothing, right? 2001, A Space Odyssey. 2001 came and done. We got some tin cans connected to a couple solar panels as a space station. We're not going to Jupiter with HAL 9000. All right? We've done nothing in the past 20 years. Right? Everything's fixated around just, hey, I got to text the apps and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What are you doing though? What are you doing? Are you happy? You're being controlled. You're being manipulated. 20 years. It's like you need to wake up. 20 years. It's just hard to comprehend. Every time I write down the date 2021, even when I used to go to the bank, I don't do that anymore. If I was like writing a check or something or deposit slip and I'd put something like 2020 or something on it. And I'd say that to the teller. I go, 2020, could you believe it? And they just had a blank stare on their face like, I'm caught in a time loop. I'm just a droid. Right? And I'm going, it's 2020, 2021 now. I mean, come on, man. You've done nothing. We've done nothing. We've been caught in a time loop for 20 years. Happiness? Anyway, it's 2 hours show. Pursue your happiness. All right? And you know that line that just came to me through the flow of consciousness. The Constitution giveth, and the terms of service taketh away. Yeah. Feel free to share that one. And, all the best of luck. Good morning. Good morning. Anyway, cheers. Hopefully the quality of this in the playback is good. I'm looking forward to getting this other device today, but I don't know if I will or won't. We'll know tomorrow. Take care. Talk to you in the AM.